This is the season 3 of Cozy's Casts. I'm not really keeping track. That we had to switch from daily vlog entries to kind of rerun of compressed episodes of previous vlog entries while I reorganize, restructure surrounding providing daily vocalizations, but not vlog entries. Yeah, I think it's easier to just listen. Although I understand the desire to see my face, the matching of facial expressions with vocalizations is an important aspect of like veracity, I guess, or verifying, feeling confident in the messenger, the source messaging. I'm hopeful that what I've done in videography so far is enough to convey confidence to the listeners I've already captured, and in the future vlog uploads will not be done via YouTube. That was mostly under pressure of needing to prolethicize more than caring about platform and the ways in which many platforms are abusing end user data. Also, it's really where everybody is, so not YouTube specifically, but just as far as like the ubiquity of a link, the easiest way to share the content. But I've been thinking a lot about, how to keep this going for a long time, because I think it's important. I think positive, technically literate speech giving surrounding the future and even the daily life is needed. And I think that the way that I think about things and my intuitive sense for human behavior is valuable, and it's especially valuable in this format for these people, I hope. So here we are. And with the inauguration and all of the changes in the American atmospheric makeup over the last couple weeks, it's also been a little too loud to speak into that room, and I haven't wanted to. Sometimes it really is just better to listen. I do want to I guess make a few notes on the current media storm. That was definitely a Nazi salute. First of all, with Elon Musk. Duh. Nobody, anyone arguing about that really is just trying to be petty, or intentionally thick. But, well, there's no buts. That was pretty awful. And obviously all of the executive orders were really awful. I was reading the one about federal employees where it says within the first 120 days we're gonna, and I really don't, not to be rude to the DEI aspects of it, but it's not quite, the DEI side of things is not quite as urgent as the phrasing, efficient in their duties and loyal to the executive branch. Like, this is far beyond diversity hiring politics, and the fact that it's being framed that way is deeply concerning. Because saying that you're going to replace all government employees with people who are loyal to the executive branch is quite the fascist statement to be making. Like, it's just so bold-faced, and the fact that the conversation, the media storm, everything that I'm seeing, at least, and again, I am in a bubble, so maybe it's not the only thing that you're seeing, but what I'm seeing is this very strange continued social and somewhat tech industry embedded political discussion surrounding wokeness, essentially. Like, it's still continuing the wokeness fights of 2016 as though they have not already been sorted out emotionally and mentally by the average citizen. I fucking hope the average citizen remembers the wokeness wars of 2016 and for the most part rolls their eyes because they have bigger fucking problems, like not getting adequate nutrition, exercise, time to spend on their hobbies. Possibly they are experiencing housing insecurity as well as food insecurity. You know, the American people are being poisoned, they're being constantly threatened, constantly under threat, and now in a very bald-faced way, active leadership is enforcing a nightmarish fascist rule that they very meticulously outlined in Project 2025, which was written by more than 30 people, many of whom were PhDs, all of which was backed financially by, what was it, the American Republican Party? Was it the American Republican Party who backed fascism this century, decade? Let's see. Project 2025. There it is, the website. Give me your about. Oh no, I want your advisory board. Who are you? Let's see, we have the American Accountability Foundation, the Alabama Policy Institute, the 1792 Exchange, Alliance Defending Freedom for Faith and Justice, the ACLJ Action, which I don't know what that is, American Civil Liberties Justice, Judiciary, I can't think of ACL as anything other than American Civil Liberties, so it's very strange to see ACLJ Action. It's a nonprofit organization as a tax-exempt social welfare organization. Oh, how fun, how cute. If only you actually cared about social welfare. I can already imagine that you don't, considering your participation in Project 2025. However, we will do a little bit of reading here to understand what your fucking acronym means. Okay, American Center for Law and Justice. Very fascinating. American Commitment, American Compass, American Cornerstone Institute, Faith, Liberty, Community, and Life, the American Conservative, the ACTA, the American Council of Trustees and Alumni. Who are they? Who are the trustees and alumni? Let's take a look. American Family Association, the Juris Link, the ALEC, the American, what the fuck, Legislation Exchange Council. I don't think that's what it says. We'll click on it. The American Main Street Initiative. Oh no, that's not good. I like the Main Street Initiative. Oh, that's so sad. I actually generally like, well, I don't know if this is the same thing, but I am a fan of local commerce initiatives usually. More often than not. Across the States podcast. The American Legislative Exchange Council. They are empowering states and shaping America's future, according to their website. The ACTA, American Council of Trustees and Alumni. Who are these people? Who are you? Tell me about the alumni. the Alumni Free Speech Advocacy at MIT, Wayne Stargart and Peter Bonilla. They are going to discuss something. Oh my god. The problem with this sort of wall of donors. Wait, okay, we'll keep going. American Principles Project, the American Moment, the American Family Project, the American Redistricting Project, the AMAC Action, the Bull Moose Project, California Family Council, Calvert Task Group, who the fuck are you? Centennial Institute at Colorado Christian University, unsurprising. CEO, Center for Equal Opportunity, applauds Trump administration civil rights actions is their banner image. Wow. CFAM, Center for Family and Human Rights, Center for Immigration Studies, Center for Military Readiness, Center for Renewing America, Center for a Secure Free Society, Citizens Against Government Waste, okay, the Claremont Institute, Recovering the American Idea, Coalition for Liberty, Coalition for a Prosperous America, Committee for Justice, Concerned Women for America, the Conservative Caucus, the Conservative Partnership Institute, something that is iconographically a shield and a sword, and it just says CD, and when I click on it, it says Consumer Defense. Okay. COS, Convention of States Action, DFI, Defense of Freedom Institute, Eagle Forum, Ethics and Public Policy Center, Fair America, Family Policy Alliance, Family Research Council, Feds for Freedom, First Liberty for America, Forge Leadership Network, Foundation for American Innovation. Oof. Okay, this list just keeps going. And I think it's meant to be somewhat intimidating in that sense. Here's another one for California. It's called Protect Our Kids. Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, Tea Party Patriots, Turning Point USA. Nobody's surprised to see these names. Yeah, so these are some of the people who helped fund and create the Project 2025 playbook. But the playbook was... how do I put this? Well done. Nobody wants to compliment it, but, oh, okay, this is the California one. Protect Our Kids. Here's their intro mission video. The triple threat to our children in public schools. Sex and gender theory, critical race theory, and what is this one? What does that say? Social something emotional learning? What? The triple threat. It's the triple threat. Social, emotional learning. These are threats, apparently. They used the biohazard image for this, which is great. Look at this guy. He looks like he has no faith in what he's saying. Oh, we don't know. Oh, he's referencing the Pew Research Center. Okay. Ethics and Public Policy Center, Shaping Policy and Renewing Culture, founded in 1976. The Ethics and Public Policy Center is Washington, D.C.'s premier institute working to apply the riches of the Jewish and Christian traditions to contemporary questions of law, culture, and politics in pursuit of Americans' continued civic and cultural renewal. Okay, I don't think I have to tell the Americans in the room that Christian values are going to underpin a significant, at least in theory, if not in practice, are going to underpin a significant amount of the verbiage being used in conservative talking points and different forms of underwriting the philosophy that we're going to find in the Project 2025 playbook. But I guess the reason that I really brought all this up is the fact that none of this is super surprising, and it's hard for people who want to fight things like this to keep perspective sometimes, and I know this from my own experience, but it's hard to keep perspective sometimes because this is a very thorough, well financed, and honestly, in a knowing people kind of way, you know, in a social engineering kind of way. It's really well done. It's just really well done, and it's hard to look at the ops and be like, "Wow, great job, guys." But just as far as how to implement what you want to see in a government system, if you have the money and the time and the resources, it the rollout was they did not lie. They didn't. There was no subterfuge here. It was very clear, and the playbook itself is very clear. Everything about this is super straightforward, and it's so funny to watch fascism take over in America in such a straightforward manner, because it's such a clear illumination of the reality that tolerance for tolerance sake will create intolerance to the point of fascism. And that's, to me, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this ideological war play out over the last few decades, and the war has been going on much longer than that. Obviously, I outlined some of the historical salient points in previous episodes, but this particular argument over tolerance, well, there's a lot going on here, right? When we dig straight down into American politics, there's an overarching argument for freedom and about freedom, freedom of religion, freedom to bear arms, to speak openly. There's a lot in our Constitution that is adored by the American people for a variety of reasons, and there's a lot in our Constitution that's admired and adored by other countries in the world, to the point where most countries have used the American Constitution as a reference or blueprint for their own important political documents. We have given a legacy to this world in the sense of experimental government design and sociopolitical behaviors that won't and can't be taken back. And this particular obvious ascension of fascism in our country is devastating but unsurprising, and seems only the natural next act of the ideological warfare we have been going through. And in many ways, everyone who is participating, even as a spectator, honestly, most people participating as spectators are participating far more than they have any idea they are participating. Simply by watching and responding, you participate. By doing nothing, you participate in ensuring the violence, in fact. That's how it works. But if you are a farmer or gardener or somebody who just likes dirt, it might have occurred to you that this is a great opportunity to rewrite our Constitution and kind of update it a little bit and ensure some bodily autonomy gets put right in there at the core of things, as well as maybe some other adjustments that the American people have wanted to make for quite a while and have not had the room to make. So I know that the rise of obvious and blatant fascism is in some ways quite depressing, but in other ways, I would really like to positively reframe and consider that it might be an opportunity for us to rework and reimagine some of the rules, some of the policies, some of the guiding principles, some of the legislation, some of the formats surrounding leadership in our country, and to really rebuild it in the image that we want to see, especially an image that could actually go forward into a future in the world, because there is no future for fascism. At the end of the day, anything that gets too monstrously out of control will be put down, even if it means mutually assured destruction for the species. I think we've all seen how berserker humans can get when they are passionately employed in the direction of their values. I know it's hard to hear, but maybe fascism could be a good thing, but actually, really, maybe we could just handle a lot of stuff right now. And one of the funniest things that I keep hearing that makes me want to pull my hair out is how Trump has 4 years to something. I'm like, you really think he's gonna stick to term caps? He has 4 years. You believe that? How self-deluded must you be? How unwilling to change must you be? How clinging to the comforts of your life in exchange for the safety, health, and security of your country folk must you be? To think that this particular bloom of autocratic leadership is in any way finite or going to participate in limits set by the previous government. I would not say that this is an American government in it. I wouldn't say it has been our government for a long time, if ever. This isn't what we who live here, who live in America, would want to see in a national expression of our community values. And I certainly wouldn't call this an expression of Christian values. There's nothing Christian or Jewish about this. This is textbook totalitarianism, textbook fascism, textbook autocratic leadership. It's not just Hitler and Mussolini or who was the Russian one? Not Putin, although that's current. The one right before Putin. Russian leadership. Let's look it up. Russian leadership. Let's see. List of leaders. Okay. Oleg the Seer. Okay. Not looking for czars or emperors or princes. Here we go. presidencies. Okay, here's one of the reasons a lot of people get I'm uncomfortable with Russia, I guess. Their monarchies are much closer in date than any others. And I don't think empires and monarchies are necessarily the same thing either. So they also have quite a lot of people and can be more brutal to their own people than most other nations in the world. Or maybe they're just more honest about their brutality, which is my personal opinion. I find Russian brutality somewhat bracing in the sense that it is not trying to pretend to be my friend at the same time, which is quite nice. Probably very reassuring. I think it's reassuring to most filmography enthusiasts, which I'm realizing quite a bit of my historical narrative is tied up in performing arts representations of historical events, so trying to integrate that awareness and also attempting to remind myself that most people in America or in the world experience something like that, and so using narratives of historical dramas is actually quite useful for all of us to continue to have like one full narrative. So I'm just going to keep doing that. But let's look. Presidents of Russia. As early as 1991, there was a very serious change in Russian government, or I should say as recent, not as early. And Putin is the latest, installed in 2012. One of the PSYOPs experiences surrounding Russia in general is that the average person will find it very difficult to call information like this to themselves without looking it up. But let's see. In the list of presidents for Russia, oh right, there were two Putins too, which did not make it easier. Is it the same Putin? It is, yeah. So mostly it's just been Putin since 1991. There was a 9-year period where Boris Yeltsin was instead the case. Let's see. He was a communist and a political independent. Oh, I'm not getting into the... If I start on the Russian history narrative, I can feel that the story will shove itself into the Bolshevik, right? Like, I can't do that right now. He oversaw the transition of Russia's command economy into a capitalist market economy by implementing economic shock therapy, market exchange rate of the ruble. Nice, that was actually quite the move. Nationwide privatization and lifting of price controls, economic downturn, volatility and inflation. Amid the economic shift, a small number of oligarchs obtained most of the national property and wealth. Oh, right. While international monopolies dominated the market. Forgot about that. A constitutional crisis, right? This was the fake repurposing of the state for the people, which just turned into a bunch of money shifting. A constitutional crisis emerged. Okay, I'm not reading all this. I'm not an expert. I'm not a subject area person for this, and I'm only gonna lose the track of what I'm trying to say. I don't even know why we go. An economic shock therapy is a group of policies intended to be implemented simultaneously in order to liberalize an economy, including liberalization of all prices, privatizations, trade liberalization, and stabilization via tight monetary policies and fiscal policies. Okay. Also, this is a little off topic, but I know I went on a rant on my Instagram stories the other day about people using the word liberal, libtard, which is super offensive, and in general, like, negging on anything liberalism. Y'all, there is real fucking fascism in power right now, and they wrote you a playbook about how that was gonna happen. And the move right now appears to be infighting. And that's just pissy bitchy. I don't care. Like, I don't think fighting with the rest of the anti-fascists is going to help. And I get that liberals, progressives, Democrats, all of these people have, even very recently, even continuing to do so, will flinch to hear the words anti-fascist, and that is due to some really good PSYOPs campaigns in 2018 and just around there, which I have already gone over and talked about. If you consider yourself against fascism, or if you consider yourself for fascism, should really be the main question here, right? And I understand that people who are frustrated with liberals, who are frustrated with Democrats, who are frustrated with progressives, who are frustrated with anybody who claims to be a good person, in the parlance that you're used to hearing, what that is, right? Like all of the signals for good peopleness. I get that there's a lot of personal ideas about ourselves tied up into these topics too. Like, being a good person is really important to everybody, regardless of whether or not they ascribe to Judeo-Christian faiths or Abrahamic structure in a more general sense, Abrahamic faiths in a more general sense, Islam too, or any religion in general. I think most people want to consider themselves, at least, a relatively good person. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and goes, gosh, I hope I am the worst person I can be today, right? Nobody's doing that. Please, all of us need to be holding in our minds that the real distinction here is about liberty. It's about the freedom to do anything, that doesn't harm yourself or others. But within like a huge range that we now have the capacity for, every person on earth can have the type of freedom that, even a century ago would have been just unimaginable. Which is another reason I think that the current state of American politics could be used as an opportunity for anti-fascist and progressive thinkers who are not quite so bogged down with the infighting. It's so easy to turn on your in-group and on yourself for not being good enough, for not being a staunch enough anti-fascist, right? There's grief here. There is grief that we should have prevented this, that we should have and did anticipate it, and yet somehow it's still moving forward in our country, in our world. It should be impossible and inconceivable. Everything that we believe, we Americans believe about what America is or meant to be, is in question for everyone, regardless of if you're conservative, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive. The question of freedom. What is freedom? What does it look like? What does it look like for a nation whose main ideology is freedom from rulership? In theory, but never in practice. What are we doing here with our country? And when I say our country, let me reiterate, I mean the people who live in this land and are subject to its laws. I don't care if you have documents to prove that you're a legal citizenship. I don't care if you're a felon. If you live here and you're subject to our laws, if American funded institutions are going to impact your living embodied experience in any way, then you're a citizen. That's very obvious obvious thing to change about the Constitution while we're rewriting our government. I just thought it might be worthwhile. And we can put bodily autonomy in there. I want to add and make sure that I reiterate that to me, bodily autonomy, because of gender dichotomies and different ways in which the gender binary is often operationalized in policy, I think it's important to add an anti-draft clause to bodily autonomy, like an aspect of, no, the state can never tell you what to do with your body, including using that body in warfare on behalf of the state. And that is radical. That is exceptionally radical. Classic, what is the word? States, like traditional statesmanship would say that it would be the stupidest move, I guess, to put that kind of thing into a foundational document for government leadership. But honestly, if the people don't want to fight for you, maybe the war isn't worth fighting. And to me, especially watching how poorly the draft worked in the Vietnam era, and knowing that this is a result of progress, a result of compassion, a result of technology, a result of improved living experiences for the average American, improved education, improved everything. Like, we did a great job as a country to come to a point where draft dodging began to look sort of enticing. It meant that the people, the average people, were educated enough, thoughtful enough, autonomous enough, empowered enough, feeling personal responsibility in their own body in a way that could impact their country. That was a growing moment for the average citizen. And I stand behind all the draft dodgers during that time. Well, maybe not all of them. I know there were some who just did it because they had money and didn't want to get hurt, and I don't stand behind those ones. But I stand behind the average people who were like, yo, not about this for any reason. I don't care if you just didn't want to get hurt. That's fine. I care if you're rich and you didn't want to get hurt, because that's an exercise of your privilege in order to protect yourself and sacrificing others. That's different. You didn't exercise the I don't want to get hurt but I'm rich privilege by, maybe stopping the draft or using that wealth in any way to ensure drafts could no longer happen. No, you were rich and you didn't want to get hurt, so you dodged, and okay. The world I want to make doesn't leave room for people like you. So I don't care. But drafts shouldn't exist. People's bodies should never be endangered. At this point in our species-wide technical advancement, should never have to be put in danger on behalf of the country without volunteerism. The shift into volunteerism is crucial for an increasingly intelligent and increasingly well-educated, increasingly technologically literate populace. The bread and circuses thing is going to have to end. It will inevitably collapse as a byproduct of evolutionary advancement. Humans are adapting and changing in real time at all times, and at some point attempting to dominate each other into acquiescence is going to backfire so badly that we either ruin our species or we ruin ourselves. And some people are willing to play the game at that level, right? Like, there are some human beings in the world who are willing to I guess, roll the dice on that. And if they end up destroying themselves and everything they love, I guess they must feel the thrill of knowing that's a possibility. And it would be thrilling, wouldn't it, to play the game of life at that level where every choice you make would impact not thousands, but millions or billions of people's lives and their deaths. And when I talk about the desperate need for horizontal, fully actualized autonomous leadership in the average person, and I talk about recolonizing your gut, and I talk about recollecting your headspace, your power, like you're a barrel collecting rainwater. I don't know, but just taking it back in any way, in small drips and big heaps. But in reclaiming your space, both your headspace and your physical space, one of the coolest social justice protest strategies that I have seen emerge in the last 20 years has been, or I guess I should say, maybe not emerge, but I've seen it in play, has been this do nothing strategy, and I've obviously been employing that the last week or so while I reorganize my thoughts surrounding this project and recommit to different routines and practices that'll help to ensure the stability of this project moving forward. Doing nothing is a powerful, powerful way to bring yourself back to center. Sometimes it's so easy to get caught up in doing everything that you don't realize quite how much you're doing. So to take an entire day and enforce couch potato, right? Maybe even a whole week, honestly. It's good. It's good for you. It's better for you than working under conditions of fascist leadership. Stop working. Stop buying. Stop participating in the real power behind American global dominance. Not for the sake of Palestinians or other people in the world who suffer the brutal hand of our dominating military forces. Although, yes, for them, first for them, it shouldn't need additional encouragement or motivation to change your habits to protect others. But distance and time makes it difficult to remember the immediacy of the danger or the reality of the harm. It just does. But it's not hard, and there is no distance or time restricting you from noticing the harm to yourself. The harm that the system does to us is unacceptable and completely unnecessary. The dream of every average person I know is to have a little bit of land that was just theirs, a little bit of a house that's only theirs, a little bit of a garden where they can grow food, and time. They want time. They want time to enjoy the sun, to make music or art, to talk to their friends. Weekly backyard campfires with your neighbors who are also your friends. This could all be ours. It really could. It could all be ours. Not just in America, but globally. We could do this with the proper redistribution of wealth and people. And when I say proper, I mean intelligent, I mean data-driven, I mean intentional, and with care, and with the honoring of the human body over the property that we push around the globe. We collectively have the power and the resources to print, 3D print, or hand make every last thing that we need. There's absolutely no need for the antiquated systems that are currently only serving to reinforce colonial ideology, because it's built on ports. It's built on the ports of every landmass, and we don't need those oceanic ports anymore to distribute resources. If we wanted to, we could use SpaceX technology to zoom things straight into the atmosphere and then right back down in a completely different place on the world. It would be quicker. It could potentially be a gross misuse of resources if resources weren't intelligently distributed properly, but my point is, of course, once again, my point is always that we have the technology. The barrier here is our ability to communicate with our fellow people in a way that's going to actually move forward the world we want to see in the future, right? It's the fact that we get so frustrated, we get so angry, we do all this infighting, the grief and the hurt and the pressure of being forced to continue to participate in a system that is actively killing you. It creates such cognitive dissonance, so much strain and so much frustration. It'll result in abuse. Domestic violence rates go up every time fascism does. It's a joke to imagine it doesn't. We know ourselves too well. We are already, as human beings, too well actualized, too self-aware to our own natures and our own tendencies to continue to lie to ourselves like this. This feels like a lie. And I cannot stress enough how overwhelmingly impactful it would be if every American consumer quit consuming. And you don't have to quit consuming, just make a plan. Make a fucking plan for how to use less, how to buy less. And I struggle with making this my direct argument for direct action, because I know how much shame and guilt is employed when it comes to exercising your purchasing power, and I know how much psychological influence is used to ensure that you're consistently exercising your purchasing power in whatever way most well facilitates the money going where it needs to go for the people who want to use it, because that money doesn't matter. It's not relevant. It doesn't even represent real gold or silver anymore, let alone precious jewels or any other thing that it originally was meant to represent. It doesn't represent any of that anymore. It's made up for the purpose of the use of these 5, maybe 12 people in the billionaire and up class and all their lackeys, because of course they have thousands and thousands of people who want to be close to that kind of wealth, who just want to be in that same bubble with the billionaires. It's not just the billionaires, it's the billionaires and all those people who facilitate their bullshit. And at the end of the day, that includes us. It includes every single person who exercises their purchasing power. It includes every single person who participates in the system that is actively killing them. It includes every single person that in whatever way is facilitating this situation, whether or not they actually want to be facilitating this situation. It would be really helpful for everybody in this country to start considering themselves as inmates because they are, and it's a very nice cage where we can pretend that we aren't in the cage most of the time if we focus, but it's still a very obvious extraction cube, labor extraction cube, energy extraction cube that you live inside of at all times, under systems of oppression, under blatant fascism, which this country now is. How in the world would you imagine Trump sticking to his 4-year term? Last time he was elected, he tried to extend his term while still in power, and there's no reason to believe he wouldn't do the same. I don't understand a nation of, let me be specific in a different direction, people who are able to vote in this country, not participating more in making it possible for everyone to vote equitably in this country. And when you think about it very literally like that, and you realize, like, the people who actually had the power to do any kind of real sweeping change to ensure that more people had more power, so it's a more equitable country, when you really gather this whole historical narrative of the very brief 200 years that America has been a country, and you really start taking apart all the different little historical events that have shaped our understanding of this country, and look at the timeline for sociopolitical growth and technological advancement, industry, automation within industry, the shifting from different forms of labor wealth. The country used to run on blue collar, and it still does, but it runs on more poorly valued blue collar. I'm going to get into a labor discussion if I keep going in this direction, which is not where I meant to go. But ultimately, I'm just saying, if you look at it, the average people never had the real power. It's always been designed, the American government has always been designed to ensure a smaller group had the real power, and the larger group has some influence in shaping the narrative, right? This wasn't ever an egalitarian society from the beginning. All men being created equal, all people being equal to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is a beautiful dream, and I think that we deserve to continue to pursue it as people, even as a global community. It's a wonderful guiding light for us when it comes to thinking about our future, thinking about the types of principles we want to be guided by in a national or global society, and thinking about expanding into the rest of our solar system in an ethical and equitable way, as opposed to continuing on with this brutal, domineering, autocratic enforcement, people as resources, people as energy, people as labor, but not people as people, machina. We don't deserve to be treated as pieces in a machine when the machine doesn't serve us. Our tools and our machines are meant to serve us, and if they don't serve us, they need to be remade. They don't need to be eschewed unless eschewing them is the move. They don't need to be destroyed unless destroying them would help. But they need to be remade in our image, the image of the real people whose labor goes into their creation. And that's not the billionaires, and we know that. Once again, I will argue for mindfulness and for doing less and for participating less or more maliciously in the system that oppresses us, and thinking forward into the future, assuming from a gardener or land steward perspective that the current fascist iteration of government in American politics is eradicated, since they are burning down our government so thoroughly and effectively. Perhaps this would be a great time to consider how that newly nitrous soil might be replanted with better seeds for a better governmental future. And I think that we have the literacy, the awareness, the savviness, the knowledge to do that. We need to make some fundamental changes within the next 5 years. We need to get rid of the current fascist regime. I'm actually kind of down to wait until they truly ruin things enough for a recreation to be possible, but that is a position of privilege in the sense that my body will not be very much more actively in danger under this rule than the previous one, mostly because women aren't really considered people. But still, I won't be as endangered as immigrants or those who are already in concentration camps, which predated Biden, I think the most deportations that occurred were actually under Obama so far. So obviously this is not just a 4-year problem. And that's why I am more hopeful towards, okay, fine, go ahead and destroy everything that America used to be. We will just regrow with better tools, honestly, and more collective creating power, right? Like, we have more ability as a people to inform the construction of our government than any nation has ever had, because we are as far into the future, to our knowledge, as any nation has ever been. And so this is a wonderful opportunity to recreate our country. It really is. It's horrific, but at the same time it's exciting. Let's rewrite some laws. Let's get some caps on financial contributions to political campaigns. Let's rework the way lobbying works. One of the things that, I've already said my piece about decriminalizing all drugs, honestly. And let's see, what else would I put into there? Bodily autonomy, no draft. Women can and should get abortions whenever they want to, for whatever reasons they want to, honestly. Don't care, didn't ask, her body, her choice. People with wombs, really, yeah, we should be even more inclusive. Their body, their choice. Wow, how hard is that, right? But I guess it is, it's a new day. We have learned and absorbed more information about ourselves as people and ourselves as a species than anyone ever has. So give yourself a break, figure out what your next move is, and I look forward to reconstructing American government and our socio-political makeup with you, the people, as a we the people type of endeavor. And until next time, please breathe more slowly. this actually goes better if you do less.